all, and welcome to the Cloud Coaching session. My name is Violeta. I'm a Digital Adoption Manager for live events in Oracle EMEA. Today, I'm happy to be joined by our security specialist in Oracle EMEA. So we have Sandeep, Arthur, and Mihai, who will be your speakers. So we have Sandeep and Arthur who will do the presentation and the demo today. And Mihai is there to help you and guide you in case you have any questions during the session. There is also my colleague Tom here to help you in case you need any guidance on our side. So today we talk about Oracle Access Governance, which is a new service available for you to use in OCI. This webinar agenda is so we start with an overview about the Oracle Access Governance, and then we will do the demo. One more note on what you will see today. So the session scope is purely educational. In case you'd like to use our services further, feel free to connect with your sales representative. Also, bear in mind that our services are enhanced on a regular basis. So if you're watching any of the sessions recordings in the future, there might be some differences in the Cloud Console mail. That was all on my side. Sandeep, over to you.
All right. Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to again for Access Governance service. So essentially, it's a recent service in our OCI IAM platform. The objective here is in today's session, we're going to talk about the areas of access governance in terms of the OCI and the Entra ID. Okay. So before I get started, so we'd like to quick introduction here. So essentially, I'll start with myself. Sandeep Khedekar, based in Dubai, we covering the EMEA region, part of the domain security specialist, covering different cloud security aspect. Over to you, Arthur. Can you please introduce? Yeah.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Arthur here. I'm based in Lisbon. I'm part of the same team as Sandeep, and I'm very happy to be here and explain how OAG works.
And hello, everyone. My name is Mihai. I'm a security specialist based in Bucharest, Romania. Also, I specialize in identity governance and access governance, and I'm happy to be with you here today as well.
All right. Thanks, Arthur. Thanks, Mihai. Let's get rolling. Safe harbor. And all right. So let's jump to the today's agenda. As we begin with the access governance overview in terms of the context of the access governance service on its own. And then we intend to focus on some of the demo scenarios, beginning with access governance integration with OCI, which my colleague Arthur will cover, and I'll be focusing more on the Entra ID lifecycle and how the certification works, so including enterprise-wide access, who has what, and we'll do some access review certifications, and we'll follow that with the remediations as well. Yeah. A quick overview on access governance. I understand it's slightly overwhelming slide, but allow me to also simplify this, right? So access governance as a service, right? What it does is essentially it can talk to different systems, treated as an authoritative source, from where it takes the information, and then what it does is, of course, it can talk to the different target applications, your EBS, Active Directory, HCMs, other systems, right? So the idea here is that once it takes the information, that's metadata, it helps you to oversimplify so that you can do your attestation, your certifications. It helps you to identify those risks in terms of the identities, right? So it helps you to discover that. Once it discovers that, then your stakeholders, your security, your compliance, your IT team can review those access, right? Of course, apart from the lifecycle management for your target systems, it can do that, and it can goes beyond doing the compliance aspect of it to to understand who has what, and then take that attestation level so that you can have a secure baseline in your organization. Now, if I have to touch upon very key areas of the access governance service, which begins from the identity orchestration, wherein it pulls the information from the target applications, and then what it helps is it essentially establishes the correlations, does the life cycle, adds the bundles roles for to run the life cycle management of the users. Okay. And then every organization is driven by the compliance and the governance. So now what is important is, do you have a dashboard or a platform for each organization to have that risk essentially for you organization to see, and they then take that informed call, basically, what do I am to do with that, right? What kind of remediations I want to do, so that you can take that informed call. Then comes the identity intelligence, wherein, when we reconcile the information from the target applications, right? Now, you want to have much more informed insight, because as a reviewer, right, you want to take certain actions on the users and the groups and the policies and the entitlements. But, given the world of so many applications and so many, multiple entitlements, we need to have a much more insight information to identify, are there some outliers in terms of any deviations in terms of the access of a particular user. Then, give me that a review. That means, somebody reporting to having finance department, but some user happen to have some marketing and IT resources, which is kind of an outlier in terms of its own access. So does IT intelligence does allow me to give me that view, so that I can take an informed call. So that's precisely is what access governance is going to give that. And the last is the quick, intuitive, and just to help you to articulate that conversational type of UI, for you to see what are the approvals, what are the the campaigns that I can run, how can I approve them, review them. So we're going to see all this shortly. Now, we want to quickly touch upon the certification, because that's very, very key for any organization as they move beyond the user lifecycle management automation. So the campaigns are, one is that the manual campaigns that you run for users to understand who has what access. Also, you can make it scheduled ones to make it periodic. But even going beyond that, micro certifications. See, managers not day in day out happy to create certifications for different activities. How about having a certification automatically created for my users who are changing their location or the department or a country, right? It should automatically invoke a certification, and it would send it to respective manager or the application stakeholder, right? So those are the kind of certifications. We're going to touch upon those as well. Now, the machine language essentially has a lot of to do with giving us the insight, a better view when somebody is going to review who has what access. So we will discuss on that as well today. And a close-up remediation in terms of, yes, fair enough, I got a dashboard, I got to review. Is it going to be just a report? But no, it's much more beyond that. And that's where the closed-loop remediation comes in, wherein it could actually go ahead and take actions. Now, yeah, so now in our demo, so this is the essentially is the landscape we have. So we have an authority source from where we have taken the user information, and essentially users are onboarded. And then what we intend to show you is going to be a request based provisioning, wherein user going to request for Entra ID, account, and the group, which essentially followed by an approval workflow and gets provisioned, right? And then we will go to the next level, and we'll actually certify review who has what access into Entra, and you will go ahead as well and check if the remediation has been taken place or not. Okay. Now, so before we jump to the demo, this is the cycle that we intend to follow. So essentially, what this is what in precisely access governance is helping the organizations to achieve. So right from the fulfillment in terms of talking to the HRMS system, the Entra IDs, and do the identity orchestration, having those identities, and then ability for you to review, see who has what access, like an enterprise wide access. Okay, both bottom up, top down, and then an opportunity to go ahead and request. Yes, some access could be automated, but some you can request based access. So we will see that how a conditional request access for Enter ID, and then we would for that we'll leverage some access bundles as a policy, and then which will follow by an approval workflow. So once it's approved, then it's been provisioned into the Enter ID. We'll see that in the Azure portal, and then we jump into the access reviews to build certain campaigns to see who has review the Entra IDs, and the auditing reporting is what we'll see in terms of certification context, right? I think we are good now to jump onto the demo. All right, so just going to minimize the screen. Right. Right. Fair enough. So let's get going. So this is the user. Right. So this is my access governance, essentially UI. So if you see, it's very intuitive in terms of, basically it shows what kind of actions waiting for you, what kind things that you can do, and you can get jump, into the actual actions. So could be approvals, could be certifications, if there's anything pending, anything that is waiting for your review. So it's something that is going to, tell you that, right? So now, in my user that currently I have logged in is Pamela, and Pamela happened to be an campaign administrator. What does that mean? So essentially, she can create campaigns and run those certifications as well, right? So let's quickly have a look at the connected systems that we, in the today's demo. So basically, Entra ID and essentially a flat file is the my source, HRMS. My Entra ID is my target applications where I'm going to provision the accounts. So it's going to be look like this, right? So I have done that integration already. Now, once I connect to the system, the identity orchestration take place. Now, how can we make it more meaningful? So here it allows you, though we have integrated with the target system, but we want to take a selected users, so we can do that either by a country, by organization, or by location. We can pull those users to be part of access governance purview, right? So in my instance, I have these set of users across different organization. I have these users which I'll be governing under the access governance. Okay. So let's get going. So let's begin with, this going back to the cycle I was showing. Let's start with the enterprise-wide access, right? So here, what I'm trying to do is that bottom up in the sense of by which resource user has access. So here I'm going to check for different resources. So I have this application Figma. I'm going to quickly have a glance at it and see, okay, which all users have what access. So basically, I have different orgs. If you see here, there are users by different job code and by location. So I can just pick, a particular org and see, these are the users, and you can actually go ahead and see what access they have. So you could go here and check, their resources and their access. Okay. So here it's both bottom up by resource, which are the users, and then top down, which users have what access. So you can check all that, right? So this is like a single dashboard. You can see your all target applications and and their access, right? What they have. Okay. Now let me just quickly also glance through and so this is what today we're going to have a look at. So let's see for Entra ID. So these are my users, right? Currently in Entra ID, and we can have a quick look at their groups or the information they have. So yeah, so Kamaljeet seems to have an Entra IT group, and yes, there are certain resources coming from the source files. Okay, right. So let's get moving. Now, what I'm going to do is essentially, okay. So before I jump there, allow me to show you my instance on Azure. So these are my set of users. You're seeing this. Now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to quickly do a new account provisioning request, right? So basically, Pamela can request for others as well, right? So for herself or any other user. So I have my user Sarah, right? So Sarah is the user, which essentially does not exist into my Entra as we speak, right? So let's see and check what happens here. So I'm just going to go. So Sarah is here, and I'm going to request for Sarah. Now, if you see that different resources, permissions are there, what I want to do is I want to request not only an account, but also a group, right? So justification. Okay. Now, the way I have an workflow defined, wherein any request which is coming for access, essentially would would go for an approval. So if you're seeing Harlan is the approver, right? So let's go and check logging to Harlan. Okay, so here is the Harlan, and we'll see here if the request is yet come for the approval. Okay, you see here, let me go screen. So here, okay, so the request is came here, which was for Entra ID required. So you can have, you can just see more details if you need in terms of who was the initiated timestamp. Those details would be here. So we'll just go ahead and approve this. Okay. Okay. Okay, so it's given. Now if I go here and see the status, it was pending approvals, and essentially that will change, okay, as it changes, right? So what happens here is that now what we're going to expect is that for Sarah, essentially Harlan since has approved, right? And we're going to see that once the request is approved, if you see here status is changed, we're going to see the account is being provisioned into the Entra as well as and group membership. Yeah, this is being updated as well, right? So before we go there, let's quickly check something that I wanted to show as well. Right, so I'll come to the workflow in a moment. Yeah. So if you see here, so this is my Entra ID, right? So being in Entra ID here, so there are different things you see here, right? So this is the connection. Okay, let's refresh for a moment. Okay. So here I see here, so these are different details that way I connect, as well as for the Entra, what you could do is that the way you essentially provision the users, right? So there are a lot of attributes can go in and provision. So it also gives you an opportunity, to modify certain attributes. So you could be a principal name, for example, you have your mail nickname that you want to provide. So just in JavaScript, you can update here and validate, and those are essentially available. So you can modify this and which particular format you expect that value to be propagated to Entra ID, and that can make it available here. So again, so for there's one more thing that I wanted to show was the unmatched accounts. So here, once I do a reconciliation from the target system, here, if there's no owner in access governance, so you can actually have an opportunity, either it can suggest or you can just go ahead and manually link that account. So this unmatched account, nothing but, a lot of times the orphan accounts, which does not have an owner in the target system. So you can either you link it if you know it, or you can essentially take an action on that. So you can take this CSV out and go through them. Yeah. Right. So now, as it is taking action, if you see here, just a quick view, right? We're going to, in a moment, we'll go and check in the Entra ID. But if you observe here, it shows here, it has created the account, right? So Sarah Lee, the account is provisioned. And if we do a quick check again, yeah, it will come to that. So next thing that it's going to do is essentially, so we ask for two things, right? We assign, provision of an account, and as well as we want an IT group to be provisioned, right? Let's have a quick check. See, I did refresh, so there is Sarah is not here as yet. So I'll just go a quick refresh here and see it's, yeah, so Sarah is populated. Yeah, and let's have a quick check on the group membership. So you could see here, the IT group is being provisioned, right? So what we have so far seen is you can request access, which follow through an approval, and essentially, the accounts get provisioned, right? And now what we're going to do is we're just going to create a campaign, right? Now, what is campaign? So campaign is basically for what are all target system that you have accounts being provisioned or you integrated with access governance. You can review who has what access. All right. So here, uh, create a campaign. I see there is a hand raised. So maybe I'll come a little later and we'll take those all the questions. Yeah. So here, so basically, as we create the campaigns, right? So essentially, uh, access governance can create campaign for the systems that it is managing directly, which is Entra ID in this case. But it can also talk to Oracle ID, governance, the on-premise one system to treat it as a data source, as well as OCI, which is what Arthur is going to talk to you today. Okay, so let me come here. So here I see there is the scope of the users under the governance available for you. So here, so we're going to check for who has access. So here, essentially, it would show me, users to be choose from a job code or location, and I can choose, right? So what I'm going to do is, the way I want to run the certification is I want to do it for Entra ID. So I want to be very specific. So since my scope is revised because I want to do it for Entra ID only, so I have done that. Now I can choose, a particular permission. So I want to see that a group IT group, I want to review who all hands an IT group in Entra application. So I can review that as well. So here we go, and then I have approvals. I'll explain that in a moment. So basically, uh, and you can create multiple type of approvals, single level, multi-level, all those workflows can be here. So in the moment, Harlan is my approver, so I'm going to include that. And okay, I'm going to have justification only for revoke. Now here, so it's for application Entra. Let's review. Let's do that. Now, of course, it can be a one time or you can schedule it, right? Every quarter or every month. Okay. And just go ahead. You can schedule it, of course, but I'm just going to go ahead and run it right away. Okay. There we go. Okay. Right. So now certification is created. So it takes 10 minutes to run, that certification. Now, in the interest of time, I had a few certifications being created. So I'll just have a quick look. So what I did is I did create one. Okay. So this is the one which is in progress. That means same certification, same, scope, Entra ID, and application. So what it is doing is same. After 10 minutes, what it happens is it would go to an approver, Harlan. So in my case, it's at the moment with Harlan to approve that certification. Okay. And then it can review. So now Harlan, I'm just wearing the hat of Harlan. So being the reviewer for that user, and they're going to review this. So let's see. Okay, let's have a look at it. Okay, so what happened is for my review, because I was very specific, I wanted for Entra ID and for the users who has a group ID. So I picked up these two users. Now, if you observe, it shows you certain recommendations, and you can go ahead, take a, look at the insights, and then take an informed call of you accept it or you don't accept it. Accept it, then you have a certification baseline. If it doesn't, then you go ahead and revoke that respective access from the target system. That's called the remediation. Yeah. So let's have a look at the insight. So by the way, my current recommendation both came accept, but sometimes it, a lot of time it gives review. That review means it's just a recommendation for the reviewer that go ahead and have a look at it. What is that access, right? So for this user, the reason it said accept because when we talk about the machine learning, right? So it does machine learning correlation check against, the peers. So one is peers reporting to the same manager. So it came out to be, same almost. And for my case, essentially, again, with the same job code, So it kept checking. So for me, it came out to be only the one user. So it will go ahead now and take certain action. So what I'll do is, for this user, Kamaljeet, I'll go ahead and revoke the access. Okay, I can also go ahead and reassign it to other peer that maybe I am not the right peer. I want to give it to someone else. So you can do that as well. So I'm going to go ahead, revoke permission for IT group. Okay. Now, if I go back to my certification cycle for this, yeah. Okay, it's a one item pending, it shows, because there are still two items. Sorry. So one I have done, and yes, so this is the one. So I'll go ahead this one and accept it. Okay, done. Now, right, so let's take a look at here. Yeah, so this is the one. So it's, the update, it has updated. So I'm just going to have a quick look at it again. So the user he has approved, right? So now it will go ahead and take certain action. Okay. By the way, so we can always go back, and so for example, we can always go back and check for the report as well. So here we go. So for example, I did certain yesterday, right, for the Entra ID group. So you can go ahead and check what has happened. Okay. So if you see, it was a similar request, and I revoked one. So basically, it was one level approval. Sorry, let me come again. So here again, it's for one application, the one permission. So I removed that, one permission, which is nothing but for that group. So it's very much, it shows here. Okay, and I can actually go and check in that report as well. Okay, so basically, for the yesterday's report, I can check and see which user has group was being revoked. So I'll do that as well in a moment. Let me show you that sample one. If you see my Excel here, so yesterday I did with one user, and this one, just a moment. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this one, let me see if I'm sharing the right one window. Yeah, I think that's the right. Yeah, so here you could see for Honey Fuser, yesterday I did a revoke action. Okay, so this is, you can do a CSV download and check in more details as well. So it shows that for Harlan was the approver and all that. So here I'll go back again. And if I do quick check now on my users, so check for Kamaljeet. Okay, so it's still taking time to refresh. So what would happen is essentially that group should be revoked, right? So we'll come back and check in a moment. But here, the idea here is, so basically this certification, so once it is completed, it gives me the report as well. So we can have a close look at it, what has happened to that. And yeah. So this gives you, complete certification cycle, what was involved, what was the scope, and you can always keep, improving the baseline. Okay. So in interest of time, so Arthur, what I'll do is I think please go ahead. It will take time to reflect that change. Please, I think you can begin with the OCI IAM aspect. Yeah.
Sure, Sandeep, will do. And thank you for that. Let me get ready. So can you guys see my slide?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, great. So yeah, let's talk about Oracle Access Governance for OCI. So similarly to what Sandeep has shown, we will go through the specifics on OCI. So Oracle Access Governance can perform continuous discovery of access details on OCI, like users, groups, app roles, permissions, and policies, and other types of, I would say, details on access grants in the OCI environment. So this will provide you with visibility about who has access to what on OCI, and you can perform, for instance, ad hoc or periodic access reviews campaigns in Oracle Access Rights, okay? Things like remediation of group memberships or OCI policy statements. This gives you the level of detail in which you can inspect what are those access details and act upon on that. So you can manage with one single OAG instance many OCI tenants. So you don't have to have a one-to-one relationship between the OAG instance and the OCI tenant that it manages. So you can use it like a central point for a unified platform, as we say there, for your organization, where you can see all access across multiple cloud tenants and enterprise applications. It doesn't have to be all about OCI. So you can aggregate everything all together. Let me see. So yeah, okay. So about the demo that I have prepared. So very similarly to what Sandeep has shown, I'd like to show a little bit of details on how it works with OCI. So the idea is to show you, in this case, access recertification on OCI so that you can create an access review campaign and then inspect the user group memberships, the policy details, and do some remediation actions on top of that and see the end result again back on OCI. And this is what I have prepared for you. So let me stop the slideware. Okay, so I have a few, I would say, browser windows with different actors, and I'm going to show you the different domains of management realms so that you can see which actor does what in which part of the overall solution. And I'll start with the OCI environment itself. So in my OCI tenant, I have this compartment, and in this compartment I have created an OCI domain with this name here, Arthur domain. And of course, we have users and groups provisioned into this domain. These are going to be the ones that I'll be using on my demo. We also have policies on this tenant that are relevant for the demo environment. So for instance, in this compartment, I have these policies, some of them related to network objects, others related with storage buckets, security related components like load balancers and VCNs and things like that, and another one for auditing purposes and so on. So for instance, you can check in the network admins policy, we are allowing a certain group, part of my domain, to manage the virtual networks in this compartment of my demo environment, and other statements regarding load balancers. So similarly, there are other policies related to other aspects of the OCI environment, but of course you will see that in action in a moment. Related to the users and the assets that they can have access to, we typically use this group membership related, I would say, policies in which you use the the group memberships rules to grant access, as you saw in the policies. And for instance, we have some groups with a few users populated into that, so that they can, of course, later on be reviewed in my demo. And that's what I will show in a moment. So let me switch now that we have an overview about the OCI environment. So you saw policies, you now see the group memberships. These are the two types of popular ways of reviewing access in OCI. And of course, these groups and these users belong to this IAM domain, which have been populated in my compartment, which is like a caging area inside the overall tenant. That's the way we do for multiple colleagues of ours to have different demo environments, and this is how we do it with the compartments. So, as Sandeep, I have also Pamela as my OAG campaign administrator. She's also a super user, so she can show you more stuff about the configuration. But typically in real life, there will be a campaign administrator that is not the OAG super user. In this case, just for the sake of simplicity, I'm merging the two roles on Pamela's user. First of all, Pamela as the, I would say, OAG administrator, she can define the targets. And in my case, I have this OCI environment as one of the targets. You saw also Sandeep working with the Entra environment before. And of course, this environment is online, so we are continuously loading the necessary data about the access permissions on the tenant. And you have different areas of configuration for this target system. For instance, the way to match accounts found in the OCI tenant, and how will they correlate with the metadata that OAG has about the users and the different accounts on different target systems. In this case, it's a very simple rule. Email on OCI equals the email on the metadata of the user inside OAG. So it's a very simple way to correlate what we find in OCI and how will that correlate with the users that are under control in OAG. Also, people that have access to these resources, they can see their own, I would say, access. And for instance, Pamela is checking her own accounts, and we can see that Pamela has an account on Entra ID and also on this OCI tenant over here. Somewhere Pamela will be here. Yeah, here she is. Okay, this is the account that you see here on the left side. Okay, then you can also see access details. So Pamela on the Entra ID environment has some group memberships and roles associated. She also has OCI roles of herself. I told you she's a OAG administrator, so that's why I can show you all of these in using the Pamela user account. She is also a regular user of OAG, so that she can log on to the console and show all this information. All right, so that's, I think, the summary about the environment and how it is built. So let's go for the typical activities that Pamela would do as a campaign administrator. So first of all, campaigns. Let's try to create, I'm going to create a campaign to review access on OCI related to group memberships. In this case, for instance, I'm going to select, I think I mentioned before, this network admins group memberships, so that, later on a manager can review and look into these group memberships and see if they are appropriate to the desired objectives of this policy. Okay, so let's create a campaign. OCI is my target, so that's why I start here. Let's select the tenancy. I just have one tenancy configured. You saw that on on the systems that I have as targets. I'm going to refine because, as I said, we have many colleagues sharing this environment with many demo environments. So I'm going to select my own compartment as, the subset of the things I want to review. Apply, and you will see here on the right side, as I apply the selections, the scope of what I'm doing is narrowing down to, in this case, the dependency and the compartment. And now I'm going to select the identity collections, which are typically in the OCI side a group membership. And as you can see, the groups that show up here are the groups that you see here, okay, because that's how the system is working. So yeah, network admins group, as I said, apply, you see here on the right side. And now I'm good. I'm going to the next step, which is to choose a workflow. From the workflows that I have defined different workflows according to the business unit. The IT management people that have this type of role will be related to this IT approvals workflow. I'll show you that. It's a very simple one. It works with a single step. So IT approvers, people belonging to this group, will be called up to do later on the review and of course take action on what gets the kicked out by the campaign itself. You'll see that in action later. So you could say that you can review for all decisions or only for revoke. Let's have it for all decisions. You could choose the periodicity. I'm gonna choose one time only. Give it a name. Meaningful. Description is also a good idea. I own the campaign, meaning I'm responsible, me, Pamela, I'm responsible to document later on all the necessary information about the campaign and provide this to the auditors, for instance. And I want to run it now, or I could schedule for, to start in 1 week from now, something like that. I want to run it now, next, and create. I could create it right. Well, I'll create it. This will take 10 minutes to start. It says here. So as just like Sandeep said, in the interest of time, I have created one exactly like the one that you saw, which is already scheduled to start. So meaning it's already available, and it's what we call the ongoing campaigns. And you can see here. Actually, I created two, one for group policy, group membership review, and another one for policy statements review. So I have both flavors available. Let's start with the one that I have defined for group membership. It's exactly what you saw before as I created, and it's already pending approval, and we can see who is pending approval. So Mark Hernandez, he's the IT manager, and he's the IT approver defined in this group that I mentioned before in the workflow design. So that's why Mark Hernandez is now having a notification on his email saying you have something to do, please log on to OAG and do your stuff there. And let's do that. So if I come here and I put this one, yeah. Okay, so now I have Mark logged on already to OAG. He's not a super user, so he doesn't see as much as Pamela sees, but he has his dashboard with some bullets here noting that he has something to do. Access reviews, by the way. So we can check the details, and they can see, you see the two campaigns that I have predefined already that are already in running. They are all related to the IT department. And so both of them land on, in this case, in Mark Hernandez's dashboard. So let's start, for instance, with the policies review. So IAM policies review. So when you go into that, you see which are the statements of the policies. So the policy is called network admin's policy, and you can see that over here. And the statements are here with the instructions, and you could see details about what does that mean. It means that, for instance, these 4 users will have access to a few of the resources: root tables, security lists, VCNs. So this is a way for Mark to have as much information as possible so that he can take an informed decision on what to do with this policy statements review. In my case, for the sake of simplicity, I'm going to say that, yeah, I agree, it's all good. I could revoke, as Sandeep did before. I'll revoke all the group memberships, which is something that I want you to see happening in terms of group memberships changing in the OCI. But so in this case, I'll agree with the suggestion coming from the machine learning, and I'll say, yeah, I'm okay with the approval action. Okay with that, and let's move forward. So I submit, and in my dashboard, the policy review is completed. I still have another one, which is related to the group membership. So let's look at that one. So in this case, the group membership, you remember I show you, it had 4 users. The group had these 4 users as the members. You could also see for this group here, which policies are affecting or are relevant, and use it in the OCI policy engine. And you can see that the network admin's policy take advantage of network admin's group memberships to give access to some of the networking resources. Again, Mark will have as much information as possible to take an informed decision, and he can look at this and say, okay, user 1, user 2 seems good to me, user 7 just joined, but there is still learning on the process, but user 8, he's not relevant for this network admins kind of stuff. So I don't know who gave him this access, but I'm going to revoke access for demo user 8, and that's what I will do now. So user 8 should not have this. And I submit. So me, as the IT manager that knows better who does what in the IT department, I took these decisions based on what access governance gave me in terms of the insights of the permissions. So coming back to the campaign owner, which will now have to follow up on that in terms of the overall process. If I reload here, let's see. I still have to wait a little bit because, the engine itself is still working on the way to complete the overall process for this.
See, Arthur, in the meanwhile, maybe your certification just kicked in, might take some time. Do you want to show us some sample report maybe from the past campaigns?
Yeah, of course, yes. And you can see already some of the progress is already showing up. In a moment, both reviews will show up here as completed. But yeah, that's a very good idea. Let me show you. So I have from the other campaigns that I have made before. Let me see. Select something that is meaningful. For instance, when too small. So you can see here from a previous campaign that I had done over the same group, but on a different user. I have modified the group membership, so that's why it shows up here as modified, brown color, and then the details about what was that modification. Let me show you. This will usually take a few minutes after completion on the console, but we don't have much time on our side, so let's do this here. So we can, this is too small, isn't it? Much bigger. Okay, so Mark Hernandez as the actor, reviewer, you see here, he accepts 2 memberships for the assignments. And come on, here. So revoking, in this case, in the past, he revoked demo user 8, and then I entered it back in the group so that I can be showing you today the same stuff. But you can see again, as Sandeep showed on the Entra, so these are the type of details that show in all aspects who did what regarding to the access review. What actions did it take? Was it accepting? Was it revoking? At what time? Who did it? What was the resource that was modified? And of course, what's the name of the campaign, so that this is documented as part of the overall compliance documentation. So yeah, this is like an example about the reports. Meanwhile, let's see if the system, yeah, you see here, the campaigns are about to be completed in terms of the overall documentation. The networks, the policy statements review is ready for approval. So Pamela could come here, and she could, not sure if the report is already, it's still pending. Okay, so in a few minutes, you will see something like what I just showed you before. The system works in a near real time because it can't do everything in real time. This is supposed to handle millions of users, and on top of that, hundreds of campaigns working at the same time. So that's it can't be real time, otherwise it would not work. Regarding this one as well, yeah, it's already ready for approval, and eventually the report and the CSV that you saw will become available, and they are still under construction, but typically 5 minutes later, something like that, they show up here and you can download them from there. So Pamela, this time, if she's happy with what she has, she can, of course, she would wait for the download of the data, but assuming that is done, she would come here and approve that one and also this one, meaning she now has all the details about all the campaigns that she ran, and she is ready to provide the documentation to the necessary auditing teams, or just to store them in the right folder for later on when an audit program kicks in the company, so that she has everything, the evidence to show to all the users. So basically, this is like the demonstration I wanted to show you. Oh, by the way, I didn't show you the group membership happening. So I revoked user 8. You see, user 8 is no longer part of the group membership because of the action that was taken. Okay. You remember that Mark revoked user 8. So yeah, this is it in terms of the demonstration I wanted to show you. Sandeep, do you think any outstanding point would be?
I think you're on to the point. It's good. We're absolutely on time, so you can just go ahead and wrap it up.
Very well. Coming back to slideware. Okay, so resources. You have here a few of the live labs resources that we have for you to try on your own. So if you have this free tier environment, you could try these live labs and do this type of testing on your own. And these are very interesting because they provide you a guided I would say workshop, so that you can step by step until you reach to the desired state at the end. Yeah, we are wrapping up. Maybe Mihai, you have any Q&A, outstanding Q&A or interesting discussion that you went through with the community?
Yeah, well, we've definitely had, let's say, a healthy amount of questions. Some of them interesting as well. Just as a final point, I'd like to encourage everyone to join our OCI Slack community. If you want to keep track of latest product development and news, that's definitely the right place to be.
Mm-hmm. Very well. Then I think we're done with this part.
Thank you, gentlemen. I see there is a question now from Arun. While the presentation is very useful to demonstrate the capabilities for OAG from a customer adoption perspective, okay, you provide information on the licensing model. So how do we configure OAG to integrate with? Okay, I think this question I already answered that the presentation material will be shared on Slack. If you want to get it via email, Arun, feel free to email us. Guys, do you have time now to cover the question, or would you like to
take a shot at it? Yes.
Yeah,
So basically,
okay.
Just to answer the Arun's query, so essentially, yes, we do have the different license tiers for the users. Depends on the workload, Oracle, non-Oracle, or the others, and we have it. And second aspect of how do we integrate to the Entra IDs, other target applications. All the documentation in OEG documentation integration part is available by each application type. Yeah.
Yeah,
thank you, Sandeep.
Detailed step-by-step installation of these target systems and the configuration of those parameters. It's very straightforward. Just head to the integration part, as Sandeep said, and you will see all the details about how to configure a target for OAG.
Thank you. With that, if no further questions, enjoy the rest of the day and see you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.